So the moral of this story is if somebody comes to you and says, I got 100 gallons of wine, let's go drink it in a crypt, you go the other way. Do not hang out with that guy. Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley. Today, we're going to be reading Edgar Allan Poe again. A week ago, I published a video about reading A Tale Told by Edgar Allan Poe, and I was nervous that I would be scared to sleep at night. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm cured of being scared. So we're here, we're trying it again. And today we're going to be doing the Cask of Amontillado. And as far as I understand, Amontillado is sherry wine. At least that's what Wikipedia says it is. So get cozy. Here we go. All right. 1,000 injuries of Fortunato I had borne as best I could, but when he ventured upon insult, I vowed revenge, as one does. You who so well know the nature of my soul will not suppose, however, that I gave utterance to a threat. At length I would be avenged, but this was a point definitively settled. By the very definitiveness with which it was resolved precluded the idea of risk. Getting revenge is risky. I must not only punish, but punish with impunity, to punish without being persecuted by cops. A wrong is unredressed when retribution overtakes its redresser, meaning you were not successful at revenge if you get caught by the police for avenging yourself. It is equally unredressed when the avenger fails to make himself felt as such to him who has been done the wrong. Meaning they gotta know that you are the one. Okay, so his two theories on what constitutes revenge is A, you have to get away with that revenge without spending your life in prison, and B, the person has to know that it's you who is angry with them. Okay, so now that we know what to expect from this revenge tale, let's continue. It must be understood that neither by word nor deed had I given Fortunato cause to doubt my goodwill. I continued, as was my wont, to smile in his face, and he did not perceive that my smile was now at the thought of his immolation. He had a weak point, this Fortunato. Although in other regards he was a man to be respected and even feared, he prided himself on his connoisseurship in wine. Few Italians have the true virtuoso spirit. For the most part, their enthusiasm is adopted to suit the time and opportunity to practice imposture upon the British and Australian millionaires. In painting and gemmery, Fortunato, like his countrymen, was a quack. I'm going to be honest, I did not expect that sentence to end with the word quack. That's funny. But in the matter of old wines, he was sincere. In this respect, I did not differ from him materially. I was skillful in the Italian vintages myself, and bought largely whenever I could. It was about dusk one evening, during the supreme madness of the carnival season, that I encountered my friend. He accosted me with excessive warmth, for he had been drinking much. I'm going to say that only an introvert would describe meeting somebody this way. Being accosted by somebody with excessive warmth. Like that's a very introverted thing to say. This man wore motley. He had on a tight-fitting, party-striped dress, and his head was surmounted by the conical cap and bells. I was so pleased to see him that I thought I should never have done wringing his hand. Thank you for coming so that I can kill you. Ha ha! I said to him, my dear Fortunato, we are luckily met. Although I'm sure there's no luck involved. I'm sure this has been a plan in the works for a long time. How remarkably well you are looking today. I have received a immense, oh, they have a note here. Immense cask holding over 100 gallons. I received 100 gallons of what passes for Amontillado, and I have my doubts. How, said he, Amontillado? A pipe? Impossible. And in the middle of carnival? I have my doubts, I replied. I was silly enough to pay with a full Amontillado price without consulting you in the matter. You were not to be found, and I was fearful of losing a bargain. Amontillado? I have my doubts. Amontillado? And I must satisfy them. Amontillado? All of these with exclamation points. I am thinking that Fortunato likes Amontillado, which is why the narrator has picked this wine in particular to be holding this discussion about. I have no idea what he's doing with this. Okay, so now he's talking to Fortunato. As you are engaged, I am on my way to Lucchesi. I'm sorry, Italian name's not my specialty. Lucchesi. If anyone has a critical turn, it is he. He will tell me. Lucchesi cannot tell Amontillado from sherry. Oh shoot. I thought Amontillado was sherry. Sherry wine. Wikipedia has lied to me. Now I don't know who to believe. Fortunato. And yet some fools will have it that his taste is a match for your own. Come, let us go. Whither? Next time somebody says, let us go somewhere, I'm just gonna be like, whither? I just want to use these conversations in real time and like just see how people react. Like I feel like people just be like, okay, what? Whither? To your vaults. No, my friend, no. I will not impose upon your good nature. I perceive that you have an engagement. Lucchesi, I have no engagements. Come. My friend, no. It is not the engagement, but the severe cold with which I perceive you are afflicted. The vaults are insufferably damp, and they are encrusted with nitrate? It is apparently an old-fashioned way of saying potassium nitrate. Look, picture. Potassium nitrate. Okay. So, Fortunato speaking. Let us go, nevertheless. The cold is merely nothing. Amontillado, you have been imposed upon, and as for Lucchesi, he cannot distinguish sherry from Amontillado. Thus speaking, Fortunato possessed himself of my arm. I find myself in need of possessing your arm. You should definitely use that on somebody you're flirting with. Putting on a mask of black silk and drawing a reculari, I suffered him to hurry me to my palazzo. There were no attendants at home. They had absconded to make merry in the honor of the time. I had told them that I should not return until the morning, and had given them explicit orders not to stir from the house. These orders were sufficient, I knew well, to ensure their immediate disappearance, one and all, as soon as my back was turned. I took their sconces 2 flambeau torches, and giving one to Fortunato, bowed him through several suites of rooms to the archway that led into the vaults. I'm assuming the vaults are the basement, or like the cellar, maybe? But if you're rich, maybe your cellar is a vault and not just like a hole in the ground with shelves. I'm assuming both of these men are fairly wealthy if you can just like drop money on 100 gallons of Amontillado, and that's like not a big deal. Okay. I passed down a long and winding staircase, requesting him to be cautious as he followed. We came at length to the foot of the descent and stood together on the damp ground of the catacombs of the Montresors. The gait of my friend was unsteady, and the bells upon his cap jingled as he strode. The pipe, he said. It's further on, I said, but observe the white webwork which gleams on these cavern walls. He turned toward me and looked into my eyes with 2 filmy orbs that distilled the venom of intoxication. Oh, venom is watery discharge, especially from the eyes or nose. That's gross. Thank you for that. That's more horrifying than anything else that's happened so far, is to think of watery discharge leaking from my eyes and nose. Nitrate? He asked at length. Nitrate, I replied. How long have you had that cough? And then we have 15 ughs with exclamation points. And I'm not going to say ugh 15 times. Just twice, apparently. My poor friend found it impossible to reply for many minutes. Okay, so apparently Fortunato has some sort of reaction to nitrate. It is nothing, he said at last. Come, I said with decision, we will go back. Your health is precious. You are rich, respected, admired, beloved. You are happy as once I was. Way to not drop that bomb. You are a man to be missed. For me, it is no matter. We will go back. You will be ill, and I cannot be responsible. Besides, there is Lucchesi. I wonder who Lucchesi is and why Fortunato was like, no. Lucchesi doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, poor Lucchesi. Like, he's just been like the mockery of the last 2 pages. Like, Lucchesi, I believe in you. I believe you should not be just like slandered about, okay? I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry, Lucchesi. Enough, he said. The cough is mere nothing. It will not kill me. I shall not die of a cough. True, true, I replied. And indeed, I had no intention of alarming you unnecessarily, but you should use proper caution. A draught of this medoc will defend us from the damps. Here I knocked off the neck of a bottle, which I drew from a long row of its fellow, which lay upon the mold. "Drink," I said, pressing him the wine. He raised it to his lips with a leer, and he paused and nodded to me familiarly while his bells jingled. "I drink," he said, "to the buried that repose around us." Wait. Nope, now it's a cemetery. I changed my opinion. The vaults are a cemetery. This is not a fancy cellar. I don't know very much about 18th century Italian crypts. I'm sorry. My specialty and knowledge on that field is it's very small. So I'm assuming the Montessors are the people buried in this crypt. Okay. "I drink," he said, "to the buried that repose around us." And then the narrator says, "And I to your long life." Which I'm sure is a farce, but it's sure a great line. He again took my arm and we proceeded. "These vaults," he said, "are extensive. The Montessors," I replied, "were a great and numerous family. I forget your arms." I am thoroughly confused. Oh, he's not talking about "I forgot your arms." Like, I left them behind. I'm sorry, bro. I forgot your legs. I forgot to grab them on this journey. He's talking about like a coat of arms. Okay, so the picture on their shield is a huge human in a blue field, and the human's foot is crushing a serpent whose fangs are in the person's heel. Okay, and their motto, Nemo me impune lacesist. I am really sorry for that Italian butchery, but it means "nobody insults me with impunity." Oh, well, that just is nice. That comes right back in circular. "Good," he said. "Fortunato, this is bad. Wrong way to, bad, Fortunato, bad." The wine sparkled in his eyes, and the bells jingled. My own fancy grew warm with the medoc. I'm assuming this is also a form of wine. We had passed through walls of piled bones with casks and puncheons intermingling into the inmost recesses of the catacombs. I paused again, and this time I made bold to seize Fortunato by the arm above the elbow. "The nitrate," I said. "See, it increases. It hangs like moss upon the vaults. We are in the river's bed. The drops of moisture tickle among the bones. Come, we will go back ere it is too late. Your cough. It is nothing," he said. "Let us go on. But first, another draught of medoc." I broke and reached him a flagon of de Grave, which I'm assuming is another wine. He emptied it at a breath. His eyes flashed with a fierce light. He laughed and threw the bottle upward with gesticulation. I did not understand. Well, me either. I looked at him in surprise. He repeated the movement, a grotesque one. "You do not comprehend?" he said. "Not I replied. "Then you are not of the Brethren." "How? You are not of the Masons?" "Oh, yes, I said. Yes. Clearly. You impossible. A Mason?" "A Mason," I replied. "A sign," he said. "It is this," I answered, producing a trowel from beneath the folds of my costume. "You jest," he exclaimed, recoiling a few paces. "But let us proceed to the Amontillado." "Be it so," I said, replacing the tool beneath my cloak, and again offering him my arm. I missed the importance of that. I got that it was Freemasons. That's all I got, though. We passed through a range of low arches, descended, passed on, and descended again, arriving at a deep crypt in which the foulness of the air caused our torches rather to glow than flame. At the most remote end of the crypt, because we don't just hang out in the front, we gotta go to the very back of the crypt, there appeared another less spacious. Its walls had been lined with human remains. Good, always a good start. Piled to the vault overhead in the fashion of the great catacombs of Paris. 3 sides of this interior crypt were still ornamented in this manner. From the 4th, the bones had been thrown down and lay promiscuously upon the earth, forming at one point a mound of some size. Within the wall thus exposed by the displacing of the bones, we perceived still interior recesses in depth about 4 feet, in the width 3, in height 6 or 7. It seemed to have been constructed for no especial use within itself, but merely formed the interval between 2 of the colossal supports of the roof of the catacomb, and was backed by one of their circumscribing walls of solid granite. That was a lot of words, and I feel like this was important, so we're going to go over this again. Alright, we have a gigantic mound of bones, and we have a wall of exposed bones, So we have two areas. We got a larger area, and then we have a small entryway into a smaller area. The smaller one has walls of solid granite. Okay. It was in vain that Fortunato uplifted his dull torch, endeavoring to pry into the depths of the recesses. Its termination the feeble light did not enable us to see. Proceed, I said. Herein is the Amontillado. As for Lucchesi, stop bringing Lucchesi into this. He's got nothing to do with this murder. He is an ignoramus, interrupted my friend. That's a great insult. Like, that's a great insult. No, I'm gonna use that now. He's an ignoramus. He's an ignoramus, interrupted my friend as he stepped unsteadily forward, while I followed immediately at his heels. That's creepy, to just be like right behind him. In an instant, he had reached the extremity of the niche. And finding his progress attested by the rock, stood stupidly bewildered. A moment more, I had fettered him to the granite. Define fettered.
As a noun, it means a chain or manacle used to restrain a prisoner, typically placed around the ankles.
So the moral of this story is if somebody comes to you and says, I got 100 gallons of wine, let's go drink it in a crypt, you go the other way. Do not hang out with that guy. Okay, I had fettered him to the granite. On its surface were two iron staples, distant from each other by about 2 feet, horizontally. From one of these descended a short chain, from the other a padlock. Throwing the links about his waist, it was but the work of a few seconds to secure it. He was too much astounded to resist. Withdrawing the key, I stepped back from the recess. Pass your hand, I said, over the wall. You cannot help feeling the nitrate. Indeed, it is very damp. Once more, let me implore you to return. No, then I must positively leave you. But I must first render you all a little attentions in my power. The Amontillado, ejaculated my friend, not yet recovered from his astonishment. True, I replied, the Amontillado. At these words, I busied myself among the pile of bones of which I have before spoken. Throwing them aside, I soon uncovered a quality of building stone and mortar. With these materials, and with the aid of my trowel, I began vigorously to wall up the entrance of the niche. So we're going to chain the guy to the granite wall, and then we're going to build a wall in front of him. I'm just sitting here like the amount of horror that I would find myself possessed of in the situation of Fortunato, and that's just a lot of work, and maybe I'm just inherently lazy, but I feel like there are much easier ways. But maybe you feel more satisfied if you kill somebody and there's more physical labor. I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't be speculating on these things either. Okay, we're gonna keep going. Okay. I had scarcely laid the first tier of masonry when I discovered that the intoxication of Fortunato had in great measure worn off. The earliest indication I had of this was a low moaning cry from the depths of the recess. It was not the cry of a drunken man. There was then a long, obstinate silence. I laid the second tier, and the third tier, and the fourth. And then I heard furious vibrations of the chain. The noise lasted for several minutes, during which I might hearken to it with more satisfaction. I ceased my labors and sat down upon the bones. When the clinging subsided, I resumed the trowel and finished without interruption the fifth and sixth and seventh tier. The wall was now nearly level with my breast. I again paused, and holding the torch over the masonwork, threw a few feeble rays upon the figure within. A succession of loud and shrill screams, bursting suddenly from the throat of the chained form, seemed to thrust me violently back. For a brief moment I hesitated, I trembled. Unsheathing my rapier, I began to grope with it in about the recess, but the thought of an instant reassured me. I placed my hand upon the solid fabric of the catacombs and felt satisfied. I reproached the wall. I replied to the yells of him who clamored. I re-echoed. I aided. I surpassed them in volume and in strength. I did this, and the clamor grew still. So he's yelling at him because he's killing him, and the guy starts yelling back like a psychopath. Okay, I'm scared. I don't like this. It was now midnight, and my task was drawing to a close. I had completed the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th tier. I had finished a portion of the last and the 11th. There remained but a single stone to be fitted and plastered. I struggled with its weight. I placed it particularly in its destined position. But now there came out of the niche a low laugh. that erected the hairs upon my head. It was succeeded by a sad voice, which I had difficulty in recognizing that as the noble Fortunato. The voice said, "Ha ha ha, he, a very good joke indeed, an excellent jest. We will have many a rich laugh about it in the palazzo. He, over our wine. He. Okay, so Fortunato does not know how to cope with the situation, and he's assuming this is all a joke. And I got bad news for you, Fortunato. The Amontillado, I said. He. Yes, the Amontillado. But is it not getting late? Will they not be awaiting us at the palazzo, the Lady Fortunato and the rest? Let us be gone. Yes, I said, let us be gone. For the love of God, Montessor. Yes, I said, for the love of God. But to these words I hearkened in vain for a reply. I grew impatient. I called aloud, Fortunato. No answer. I called again, Fortunato. No answer still. I thrust a torch through the remaining aperture and let it fall within. There came forth in return only a jingling of the bells. My heart grew sick on account of the dampness of the catacombs. I hastened to make an end of my labors. I forced the last stone into its position. I plastered it up. Again, against the new masonry, I re-erected the old rampart of bones. For the half of a century, no mortal has disturbed them. In pace requiescat. Again, butchering Italian. That's the last line. We have note 68. May he rest in peace. Let's talk about impact, shall we? This one might give me nightmares. I can see that. Because there's a lot more torture involved in the death. It's a very torturous, well thought out, well planned death. That will, and I guess maybe it's scarier too, because in A Tale of Two Hearts, the murderer ousted himself. This guy has been sitting on this for 50 years, and hasn't, obviously he's not feeling bad enough about it that he's turned himself in, so that's creepy, because he's just going about normal society and probably interacting with this guy's wife and kids, no big deal. That's not okay. That's really creepy. That's not okay. I'm gonna go hide in not a crypt with 100 gallons of wine. I will talk to you all later. Bye.